So how do you actually not get defensive and just listen to your partner?
Earplugs.
Haha.
All right. So seriously, I think that the way to do this is to realize when you're getting into a fight with your partner and they're getting upset and then that's upsetting you and your upset's getting their upset, is you actually don't know what they're saying, right? After, I don't know, 15 plus years of marriage, I realized it sooner than that, but we are just not hearing each other. And it's not because of the words, it's because we have different values. And most people are projecting their values onto the other person rather than asking the other person, what do you mean by those words? So when you realize that you're just literally mishearing the other person and they're also mishearing you, you can slow down and you can actually dig in and really try to understand what they're saying.
I think all that's true. And I think there's something even more subtle going on when you get defensive. Defensiveness is a form of being dysregulated. It means you're kind of upset, a little bit triggered. That's what defensive is. You're defending yourself. And yes, it can come from a misunderstanding. But even before you go cognitive and go, well, where's the misunderstanding? You want to notice that you are dysregulated. And dysregulation is actually a form of time travel. It means you have left the present moment where you're talking to your partner and they said what they said. And you have actually gone back in time to a younger version of yourself, under 10 years old, where you only have 4-year-old files and 4-year-old interpretations. You, in the moment of defensiveness, have felt a feeling come up that is historic from your childhood, a feeling that never got to complete, a place where your emotional experience got arrested. And that feeling that never got to complete is coming up for completion. You're defending not actually necessarily against the thing the person's saying. You're defending against what you think they're saying, which might be a misunderstanding, but you're trying to avoid a feeling. And the feeling is ancient. And the feeling is like someone is saying you're bad and wrong. And you're trying to say, I'm not. Let me explain. Let me give you the reasons and the story. And if you hear enough reasons and stories and explanations, you'll see I'm actually good and innocent and trying to do the best I can. So I think before you can clarify misunderstanding, a defensive person, which I am known to be, as soon as I notice I'm defensive, if I can take a deep breath, regulate my nervous system, which is a form of time travel back to the present moment, and then I can feel into what's actually happening in my nervous system in this moment and not regress to a younger version of myself. And when you're back in the present moment in your adult nervous system, you can actually then have your cognitive function online and go, what do you actually mean by that? I notice I'm making it mean X, Y, Z. Is that what you mean? And then clarify the misunderstanding. When you're defensive, you're actually sensitive about something. It's almost like someone's touching you where there's a bruise. And so you're extra sensitive, but you're extra sensitive because you're linking this current experience to a past experience from your childhood, which has not been completed and assimilated and integrated. And so every moment of defensiveness is actually a piece of your history seeking integration. And there's an opportunity for you, if you slow down, take a breath, and sit with what's going on inside of you, there's actually an opportunity for healing, for you to integrate that. That's only available if you slow down.
Yeah, and I agree with that if you're actually getting triggered, if you're getting upset, that you're going to have to go and do all of that work to kind of get yourself back to the present moment. So to have enough kind of consciousness to be able to then say, okay, can you kind of explain to me what you want or what you're trying to do here? And then let's see if you can understand. And I'm just saying that when you approach things and your assumption is just, I actually don't understand what you're saying, it can kind of short circuit the whole triggering, upsetting, attack, defend kind of pattern, because you realize I don't actually know what you're talking about. I think it brings a kind of an intellectual humility to the relationship, because then you have to kind of go slower and you have to clarify. Now, obviously, sometimes in life, the pressure's on and there's no time to actually work these things out. It's not an ideal situation. But I've just found that by saying, would you just explain to me what you're talking about here? Will you just put it in some other words? And then let's see if we can get a mutual understanding. Or if you're upset, with me in some way, see if you can make sure you understand where I'm coming from before we go, get to the point where we're trying to fight. It will actually make a huge difference.
Also, remember that defensiveness is a natural inclination for any animal to defend its life, to protect. And we defend when we feel attacked. And so one thing we can cultivate, and I have had to cultivate as a coach who works with couples for a living, is to track if someone is defensive around me. What am I doing that would have them feel attacked such that they would need to defend? Is there a way I can communicate what I'm trying to say that maximally mitigates their need to defend? Is there a way I can conserve their dignity, their self-esteem, so that they can feel seen and heard and not have to articulate their explanations, their reasons, their intentions? Like if I said, hey, I know it's really important to you to get along with our daughter, and I know you would never want to do anything to hurt her. And I have some ideas about how you could speak to her when you're upset that would have her listen to you even better. There's no reason for you to defend because I've transmuted my shamey, blamey criticism into an invitation for a conversation that conserves your dignity. And so I think anytime someone's defensive around you, you can ask, what am I doing that's such that is having them feel attacked? And maybe you could find a different way, which means you have to regulate your attack nervous system into a calmer space. And if you're on the defense side, I've heard you say this, and I think it's true, that defensiveness is the counterbalance point to aggression. And that defensiveness might actually be a version of aggression that's available to people who have an internal embargo against attack. Like some people are not allowed, they're programmed culturally to not attack another. So they have to attack someone. So they internally attack themselves. And then in addition to your accusation, they then attack themselves. And so now it produces this highly intense defense response because they're not just responding to your claim. They're responding to maybe things their father and mother said through their whole life. They're responding to their own self-attack. Looking at what's underneath your defensiveness. Is it anger? Is it hurt? And can you bring that emotion up and make it transparent to your partner? I think we can get further with that. Yeah.
And also, when I'm helping people sometimes who are feeling defensive in situations or feeling upset or afraid and so forth, it can be very enlightening to realize, like you said, they're sometimes two sides of the same coin. So the defensive behavior can actually make the other person feel more aggressive. And sometimes the person feeling more aggressive can bring out the defensiveness. There's a dance that's happening. And oftentimes, some people that maybe be a little bit more sensitive, maybe feel, sensitive to disapproval from others, or if someone else is upset, I'll tell them instead of, being afraid in this situation, just look at the other person and say, hey, don't mess with me, and actually stand up for yourself a little bit, not to be overly aggressive, but just to do the energy in a different way. And oftentimes the more aggressive person will go, oh, okay, we can just kind of calm down here because we're not in this attack, defend, aggressive, defensive dance anymore. It's like a good pattern interrupt.
Yeah. And I think you need to become proficient at both sides to be a well-functioning human. You need to be able to assert, aggress, and attack for things that you stand for. An aggressive act is the creation of a new reality. And I think you need to cultivate that. And we've talked about this before, that some people are quite versatile at expressing hurt and pain and anxiety. They're comfortable being scared or crying or being anxious, but they're uncomfortable being angry. And there are some people who are very comfortable being angry, but they're uncomfortable showing fear, anxiety, or hurt. Right? And the aggressive attack person tends to be the person that's totally cool with anger, but really uncomfortable showing pain, hurt, or anxiety because that seems weak. And so I think what it is available for us in relationship is if you tend to go into defensiveness, or which is underpinned by fear, anxiety, and hurt, your job is to look for the latent, lurking anger that lives beneath that anxiety, that lives beneath that hurt, to get in contact with that and bring that up forward so that you get developed in your underdeveloped skill. And for those people who are really good at feeling angry and attacking and being aggressive, your development path is to find the hurt, the fear, the confusion underneath your rage, your anger. Get in contact with that and bring that up to the surface. And this is why angry types tend to find and attract scaredy, anxious types, because they're looking to cross-train from their underdeveloped skill.
Yeah. Another point is if you're angry, okay, or you're fearful, you can actually express that feeling or that emotion without directing it at the person that you're in a relationship. And it really can make all the difference to say, I am really angry and frustrated right now versus I'm really angry and frustrated right now. Or
you're bad and wrong or something's wrong with you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Literally just owning your own emotion without projecting it as being caused by the other. And I mean, that's a standard move. But if you said to your partner, I'm really scared and hurt right now, I'm 8 out of 10 scared and hurt, and you don't link it to their behavior, they're more likely to be curious and lean in and want to help. And maybe as they ask questions, they realize on their own, ooh, my partner feels scared and hurt about something that I did. But if you don't blame your partner and say, I'm scared and hurt because you did X, Y, and Z, and you allow your partner to discover on their own that something they did led to the hurt of someone they care about, that works way better to get a behavior change because you're allowing their own internal endogenous conscience, their own internal shame to go click, oh, that thing I did had an impact on my partner. You're so busy shaming and blaming and they're defending that their own inner conscience never gets to make the connection. So if you really want a behavior change in your partner, it's better to let their own internal shame be connected to your pain rather than you pointing the finger.